Okay, welcome back to our lesson in American literature, week 4. And as you can see in the background, we've got our meandering stone wall, and I've got my Yankee Dum jacket on for this crisp fall day. So, uh, first, let's start off with our first poem. We didn't get to last week, but we'll make a go of it this week. Is the Old Oaken Bucket by Samuel Woodworth, and he was born in 1782 and passed away in 1842. So he writes this poem in 1817, and it became a popular song about 17 years later in 1834. So Samuel wrote poems and novels and plays and operas, and he was a newspaper reporter. But he was born right here in this little small town to a farming family, bunch of kids, and his prospects for the future were very limited. Basically, if you were born into a farming family, you became a farmer as well. And as we look at farms and farming in Yankeedom and across the country, not much had really changed since the Revolutionary War. Life was pretty much the same as it was back in 1776. So we have a whole 100 years of not much going on, and not much change. Now, Woodworth, again, grew up as a kid on a farm, and the local minister kind of took him in and took him beyond the usual uh, one room, schoolroom education of the day and taught him about writing and introduced him to poetry. And eventually, that minister gathered up enough money for him and sent him off to college. Uh, Along the way, he learns the printing trade. He becomes a printer. And he goes down to New York City, where all the big jobs are for printing. And he um, has a hard day at work. Him and his mates go down to the local pub after a hot day, and they are going to have a couple glasses of wine. So he orders a cognac, which is a very special, high price wine, and he drinks it down and he says, "Oh, there's nothing better than a nice glass of cognac." And his workmate says, "Yeah, there is. There is something better." He says, "I remember when I worked on the farm after a hard, hot day in the summer, coming back up to the well, getting a nice, cool glass of sparkling water. And nothing tasted better than that on earth." And Woodworth thinks about that for a while, and he goes back to his home, and he writes this poem in about a half an hour. And this poem becomes a standard that's even taught in American schools today. It becomes a song. There are a couple of YouTube videos on the song. It's a little hot on the ears from the music of that day, but want to take a listen, go ahead. Okay, so let's talk about the. Also, there is a trophy that's given has been given every year since 1925. It's called the Old Oaken Bucket Trophy, and it has something to do with the Big Ten Conference of college football, a special game between Purdue University and Indiana University, and whoever wins the game gets the Old Oaken Bucket Trophy. So a couple of the again, so this is a he is a would be classified as a romantic writer. And romantic writers look back at the past and make it seem like this is the best time in history. So, a couple of the quick vocabulary from the poem you might not know. It talks about where the cataract fell. And a cataract is a waterfall. He also talks about nigh, which is an old English term that means near. And he talks about Jupiter. And Jupiter was a Roman god of thunder and lightning and storms and light and the sky. So, again, this romanticized view of the past. Okay, so um, he was, so he grew up in this small town. He's a farmer kid, and like I said before, and it looks back at an idealized view of the small family owned farm in the early 1800s. So, what I'm going to tell you now is what life was really like in 1800 on a farm. Okay, so first of all, there's no bathroom in the house. There's a house outside the house called an outhouse, and that's where you go do your duty. But at night, you might do it in a pot or a bucket. And every day, you're going to take it out and get rid of it. There's no grocery store. There's no Aldi. There's no Spar. There's no little neighborhood Coop. Okay. There's one grocery store possibly nearby. And you can buy flour, coffee, and sugar. And that's about it. And you buy it on credit and you pay for it after the fall harvest. You dig your own well. You do your own blacksmithing, which is metal work. Put shoes on the horses. You do all of that. And you starve in the winter if you have a bad growing season. You would be expected to have 18 to 20 children during your marriage. Half of them will pass away by the age of 5 due to childhood diseases that we have vaccines and cures for today. Uh, you slaughter your own animals for meat, chickens, pigs, cows. You do all of that yourself. Big day off, Sunday. Okay, everybody gets Sunday off, but you go to church and you're going to be there all day. Okay, church is an all day affair back then. Let's talk about hygiene. Okay, basically, it doesn't exist. There's usually a pan with water in it as you come in the house, and you wash your fingertips, maybe wash your face in the morning. And Saturday night bath is one bathtub filled with water, shared by everyone. Good luck with that. Okay, so clothes. Okay, so you have two sets of clothes. You have your Sunday best clothes, and then you have one set of clothes just for everyday farming. And those clothes are repaired and re-repaired and repaired and repaired until they fall off you, and then they make you a new set of clothes. Uh, let's see. Before the Civil War, there were no left and right shoes. They were the same for both feet. And it was your feet that stretched out the shoe to make it a right shoe or a left shoe. Good luck with that one. Alcohol abuse was rampant, worse than today. You do go to school. It's a one-room schoolhouse. Uh, the teacher teaches all grades in one classroom. And your teacher is usually a single woman, and she could be as young as 14 or 15 years old. Uh, School windows. Let's talk about school windows for a little bit. So, in these one room schoolhouses, one wall is designated as all glass. And that is so because uh, there's no artificial lighting. You have to rely on the sun and natural lighting. So the sun shines in. If there's one wall that's all glass, everybody gets the same amount of light. That's why desks are in rows. And if you think about it, even modern schools today have the same design. I mean, there's no need for that, but that's how it started from an agricultural one room schoolroom point of view, and not much has changed since then. Uh, in Massachusetts, some of the bigger cities are starting to really take hold of the American Industrial Revolution. And it was mostly textiles and shoes. And these factories were Springfield, Massachusetts, which is about 100 miles west of Boston, became a big center for industry and factories, and a lot of people went there for jobs. It was a very dangerous place to work, no safety standards whatsoever. But Springfield had a great run for about 150 years or so. And if you go today, it's a dilapidated city with lots of crime and high unemployment. And they never really progressed any further than that American Industrial Revolution. They never really bounced back from not surviving from the downfall of that. The average lifespan was about 35 years old. If you made it past age 5, you might live to be 60 or 70. So the idealized romantic view of American farming Yankeedom in the 1800s was anything but romantic. Okay, so that's a little bit about our first poem, Old Oaken Bucket, by Samuel Woodworth.